Graham, one positive, it's a big positive, is that the curve in Australia is flattening, and the message, you can see it in the Prime Minister's face, he's much more positive today than he was a week ago, and for good reason, Graham.
Well, everyone from the Prime Minister down seemed to be doing the right thing. You've got a few ratbags still running around and, you know, promoting different things, and 90% of Twitter should go and take a bloody cold shower. But from the PM down and the mums and dads out there and the families, I think the response has been terrific. And people, remember before this, people were saying, oh, you know, nobody trusts the leadership, nobody trusts politicians. Well, the country has trusted them. And the other thing today, and I think this is important tonight for the journos and tomorrow, Kieran, is this modelling. You know, I've seen most of the good models around Australia, like Treasury has the best modelling, and it's rarely 100% right, very rarely. And I can tell you, I saw one model that cost an absolute fortune, and it was if the seas rose by 1 metre or 2 metres, what would happen to the Australian islands in the middle of the Gulf? And you know, not surprisingly, the islands were in terrible, terrible trouble. It'd be a catastrophe. And then when it was released, everyone said, shock, horror, all the islands, global warming is going to kill all the islands in North Australia. But where did if the seas rise by 1 metre or 2 metres, that's the result. But where did that come from? That figure was just plucked out of some bureaucrat's posterior, and most people are saying, well, it'll rise about 3 or 4 centimetres. So it depends what you put into a model, what comes out of it.
Yep. Well, it's certainly the situation at the moment is so fluid, Bruce, that even the CMO is saying, look, we will get it to you when we've got it, but in terms of the Australian data, the modelling they released today is based on the international experience, but so far they're exceeding expectations in terms of how quickly they've reduced the growth rate of new infections.
Look, they are. My only concern about all this, Kieran, is that people will say, oh, look, we've got a beat and we can start relaxing again. I think there is a tendency to do that, and I think we all have to guard against it. I think people coming out and saying, oh, look, this thing should be sorted out very soon, and maybe we can start taking restrictions and limits on people's outings and so forth off. I think that's really dangerous. We just have to work on the available information. The international modelling may not be accurate. We don't know. But what we do know is that in countries where they've been on top of it and then they've relaxed a little bit, we've seen a spike. We've seen that in Singapore, we've seen that in Hong Kong, we've seen that even in China. So this is an insidious disease that is going to come back every time we don't belt it hard with a hammer, and I think that's the message that our health officials are trying to get out right now. Our police are trying to do it as well by being tough on people congregating in public places, and I say let's just keep doing that. Let's not pull back now. Let's just keep going really hard, and maybe we will get through this thing faster and with less deaths than we would have otherwise expected.
And I do like the message the Prime Minister says, the Health Minister, the State Premiers, Graham, in saying, in trying to mobilise a sense of national spirit in this, because, you know, as Bruce puts it, if we can smash this thing, I think, as a nation, it's something. It's a national project, not just in an economic sense, but a social sense, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, I reckon what Bruce just said is dead right. And if we pull out too early, we're going to have a lot of Australians who are just dead. Look, this sense of national cohesion at the moment, it's working. You can see it's working. And you look overseas and, some of these ratbags, you'd like them to get on a boat and just travel around Italy or Spain or somewhere and just see how they go. If you pull out of this too early, we could have some awful results, particularly if it gets too far into the bush, if it gets to our Indigenous communities. So, look, I just hope everyone, particularly this Easter holiday, puts their puts all their normal practices in the bin and finds a different way to celebrate Easter so that we come out of this holiday without a catastrophe.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm confident that we will, as you've both paid tribute to the Australian people thus far. And Bruce, the political nuance to this, the balancing act, is saying on the one hand, yes, please be vigilant, but you also need to give people a sense of optimism.
You do, and I think there's plenty to be optimistic about right now. If you look at the way that curve is moving, that is very encouraging. The fact that we've got teams around the world working on vaccines and other treatments, that is remarkable, and it just shows that it's not just Australians that are working together; it's whole nations working collegiately, and I think that's a wonderful thing about the human spirit. We don't always see it, but when we do, I think we should salute it and say, well done. And that's the sort of thing I think that we need to be telling ourselves, that actually together we can beat this thing. But it's not going to be up to individuals. It's going to be up to the collective to do it.
Graham,
it looks as if
had a really tough start to the year with the fires, Graham. They had a tough response to that crisis. But I tell you what, it's almost like it was there to say, OK, this is how you need to deal with a crisis, because the response on this has been so much, you know, light years better from the government.
Well, you know, I agree. I think the Prime Minister had a rough couple of weeks at the beginning of the year, but I think he and the team and the whole political system, state, federal, opposition, has worked really, really well. And the important thing is it looks as if Plan A just might work, and it'd want to, because Plan B looks pretty thin.
True. Graham and Bruce, there is no Plan B. Thanks for that. Talk to you soon.